Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Mick Alphanine. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you could, please click that like button, turn it into a rocket, and send it to the moon. So we began a very surgical approach to looking at the money that could be flowing through these protocols, and then you can make your own measurements and judgments from the information that was provided, right? But we're going to continue a surgical look at an aspect of money that could flow through these crypto protocol, these banking coins, okay, that isn't typically taken into account. Now, at least here on this channel, we do discuss a lot about central banks, okay, and the money that they're bringing to the table. We also discuss a lot national digital currencies, but one thing that we don't discuss is the utilization of these protocols by commercial banks. Commercial banks, they have a lot of money to offer, a lot of money that they're going to put right down on the table. Okay, so I believe this is something we need to take into account. So let's take a look here. Let's go here. This is statista.com. All right, and this article is titled Largest Commercial Banks in the United States in 2020 by Revenue. Okay, so this is going to give us an idea. And we can extrapolate and just increase by, increase the amounts and round up based on what we see the economy is doing. And then we would have an idea of what 2021 is doing. But right now, we'll just go by this 2020 chart. Here, I think gives us a pretty good idea. So starting at the bottom, we have the Bank of New York Mellon Corporation is moving in revenue, has $16.8 billion in revenue. Then we have PNC Financial Services Group, $18.34 billion in revenue. We have US Bancorp, $25.24 billion in revenue. Let's skip up a little bit. There's quite a few banks here doing very well. Wells Fargo, $80.3 billion in revenue. Citigroup, $88.84 billion in revenue. Bank of America. Bank of America is very interesting, and then we'll get back to this later as to why I believe that they're very interesting. Keep in mind, please give this some thought that Bank of America has certain dealings with XRP, Ripple, and also ran a few test pilots with XLM. Remember we covered that? You can find a documentation on the internet. They ran a few test pilots, and I believe they won a contest utilizing and building on XLM, the Stellar protocol, the Stellar ledger. So they have the knowledge of the utilization of these protocol and can possibly put them to use. Okay, so Bank of America is very interesting. So we have Bank of America Corporation here, $93.75 billion. Imagine just a portion of that. I love to say this all the time because I want to generate that imagery in your mind. Imagine a portion of that flowing through XRP, Algorand, or XLM. Imagine just a portion of that. And what would it do to that price? Right? So we ended off the top of the list, JP Morgan Chase, $129.5 billion. So this is money that could possibly flow into these protocols, okay? These are institutions, commercial banks, as opposed to central banks, okay, that we typically discuss in the nations and governments that we also typically bring up when we're talking about national digital currencies, central bank digital currencies. But this is commercial bank money that could also flow into these particular protocol. That is a lot of capital that's just sitting on the table that we need to take into account and ask ourselves, if we even get a portion of that market, what does it do to that price? What is it? How parabolic of a run can we make? And then on top of that, let's also take into account transaction volume. We're talking massive amount of transactions. All right. And that is also taken into account, as I stated before, the padding of the interoperable system with the legacy so-called innovations, okay? Because we're going to pad, the legacy market is still going to have a large portion of the legacy system is going to still have a large portion of the market, but that does not negate, negate from what is going to happen with the money that's going to be flowing, okay, through the new system. And it's very significant, and there's enough money for everyone. There's enough money for everyone. XRP, XLM, Algorand, as well as the legacy system. Now, let's go here. Let's talk investment banks. You have some that are specifically commercial banks. You have some that are specifically investment banks, believe it or not. However, you do have some that are a culmination of all of these different iterations of banks. You have that as well. But here we have a list, and this is on advratings.com. And this article here is titled Top 10 Investment Banks. Okay, so here we go. We have Bank of America Securities, $5.6 billion. We have Barclays, $3.2 billion. Deutsche Bank, $2.2 billion. Keeping in mind, this is just their investment. As investment banks, their investment banking wings, okay? Wells Fargo, $2.1 billion. RBC Capital Markets, $2.0 billion. Now, keep in mind, everything is being tokenized. I even heard, and I can't remember where I heard it. I wish I did. But them bringing stocks over to the blockchain, right? I don't know how they were going to do that, but there's so many amazing things going on that a lot of them I do understand, and a lot of things I don't understand. Just takes a little bit of research to understand them. But I mean, we're talking land tokenized, music tokenized, art tokenized. Everything will be tokenized in the future. Okay. So all of this is relevant and significant when we're trying to make projections of what the price of a protocol might be in the future. That is personal to each individual. I am not a pro give price prediction individual. I'm not at all. I have my own ideas, and I believe, and I have enough respect for everyone else to either provide them with information and let them make the decision on their own, or I just don't provide anything and I just expect them to make that decision on their own. We're all going to have a different measurement based upon our observations and research of what that price of that protocol could possibly be. And then that leads us to the price that we might want to sell at, take profit at, okay? RBC Capital Markets, $2 billion. That's number 10. Number 10 is bringing in $2 billion. $2 billion. Okay, so now let's click on this next tab here. It's just giving you an idea of the money that is out there. That, and showing you that the ideas, the fire behind XLM, XRP, Algorand is quite different from other protocol. It's very different. That they're going into territory that has never been conquered before by the blockchain. It's never been conquered before. So while Bitcoin is beautiful, Ethereum is beautiful, there is a new era that has yet to be born. Yet to be born. It has yet to rise. And yes, some individuals are going to say these protocols have been around for quite some time. But it takes time to build infrastructure. It takes time to establish relationships, to curry respect, right? To have regulation enacted. When regulation is enacted, then large institutions will get involved. They're not going to get involved in anything that's not regulated because they don't want problems, and I wouldn't either. Problems will get in the way of your money. So until something's regulated, I wouldn't touch it. It's regulated. It's good money. Now we can use it all we want. So you're waiting on regulatory clarity. And then after that, then you have to wait for the mass adoption. Adoption and the implementation of the protocol takes time. It takes time. There was a leader of, was it VeChain? I believe the VeChain CEO said the same thing. This was like yesterday. And he said, it takes time to build. It takes time to implement these systems. And he's absolutely right. And he said, listen, I believe it was the VeChain CEO, and you can find it on Twitter. I believe that's where I read it. And he said he's ready to build for the next 20 years to see VeChain reach its optimal point. And that goes along with VeChain's price. So if he is looking at 20 years of building, okay, and it gives you a different outlook as an investor to say to yourself, okay, this is a long hold. Yes, we're gonna have to do a lot of building. We're gonna have to wait for a lot of implementation, a lot of mass adoption. There's gonna be bumps here and there, and it's not going to move at the pace of that individuals who just want quick money like that. It's not gonna move like that, not always. These projects are so heavy in the weight of what they're going to do in the world that they need to take time. This needs to go the right way. Now, let's continue here. We have a lot more to cover. 10 biggest banks in the world. So before we were just covering the United States. If you were keen and you were paying attention, that was just United States. We're going to cover the 10 biggest banks in the world. So we have Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. So I'm trying to stay with the commercial bank thing. Okay. Industrial and Commercial Bank of China. Revenue, $123.6 billion. Net income, $45 billion. Market cap, $231 billion. Let's go to Japan Post Holdings, okay, Ltd. Revenue, $112 billion. Net income, $4.7 billion. Market cap, $34 billion. Now, keep in mind, Stellar has some legs. Stellar has some legs in Japan. XRP has some legs in Japan. What does it do to the price of those protocols if they're being utilized and even a portion of those billions is flowing through the protocol? Now, like I said, I'd like to iterate. There's no guarantees in life. I'm not one who lives by the guarantee. I actually have quite a bit of fun with the chance. However, these systems are already establishing themselves in these regions, doing memorandums of understanding with certain banking entities. So we know it's highly probable that they are going to be utilized, right? Correct? Okay, so imagine a portion of those billions flowing through those protocols. This is why I believe it's beneficial to not be a maximalist, okay? Because you're gonna leave money on the table. There's so many people investing in so many different crypto, but I believe it's important to know which ones are going to be possibly, because all of crypto is risky, but possibly making the biggest gains in the long run. So you have your short-term crypto you're gonna take profit on and probably gonna make you a pretty penny. And then you also have your crypto that it's gonna bring you the big boy money. Huge sums of money, life-changing wealth. I would believe that it's wise to have a little bit of both, okay? And perhaps have a little bit in those bags if you feel like you want to take profit that you're comfortable with taking profit with, but you also have enough to be prepared just in case you have that life-changing parabolic run at any point. I think that's quite logical. So let's continue on here. China Construction Bank Corporation. We're looking at $102 billion revenue, net income $38.7 billion, market cap $196 billion, okay? So, Agricultural Bank of China is next, $89.7 billion revenue, net income $30.9 billion. Now, this is important when we're talking about, see, we have to take into account protocol that could do very interesting things. I think XRP has, I don't know if I should say certain things, but let's say they're doing very interesting things in the region. But VeChain is very strong in the region. We never know how a country, a nation is going to utilize a particular protocol when they have taken a likening to it. Crypto companies can make changes to the protocol to acquiesce or to please certain entities if they should choose, or if there's a sector that is crying out for a certain for crypto to do something, right? And yet no other crypto is allowed to operate there. Why would you not take that market? VeChain is allowed to operate in China. They're doing a wonderful job as far as I can see around the world. So That's a lot of money on the table. Like I said, XRP is doing very interesting things in particular regions. That's all I'll say about that. But that is a lot of money on the table from commercial banks. And also, this just to give you a general idea, of the money that commercial banks possess, really. I have to say that because with China, you know, they have certain issues with a lot of cryptos. They have the digital yuan already, all right, which I believe could give way to another protocol that could either enhance that or could possibly ingratiate itself so much with the digital yuan that the yuan would just be the yuan in name, but be running across different rails or encompassed or wrapped, so to speak, in a different protocol to increase its efficiency. It's all a possibility. You know, these are just thoughts, but, you know, it's definitely possible. Credit Agricole SA, we're looking at $83.4 billion. Like, we're talking so many billions that's probably becoming normal to you at this point, but it shows you the amount of money that is out there in commercial banks. Then it's just money on the table, right? So I typed in here, okay, so we're going to go to largest banks in the U.S. by assets. So we're trying to take a look at different parts of the bank and where the money is. Because like I said, everything is going to be coming to the blockchain, in my humble opinion. I think a lot of other people have that same opinion. So let's look at largest banks in the U.S. by assets, okay? And this is in 2021, it's from the website insiderintelligence.com. JP Morgan Chase, $2.87 trillion in assets. Bank of America, $2.16 trillion in assets. Citigroup, $1.65 trillion in assets. U.S. Bancorp, $530.5 billion in assets. Trust Financial Corporation, $488 billion in assets. PNC Financial Services, $457 billion in assets. TD Bank, $388.34 billion in assets. Muy lindo, mi gente. Now, so if that doesn't make you smile, just knowing what's going to be tokenized on the blockchain, right? And you have Stellar expanding NFTs, right? You have XRP expanding into NFTs, VeChain, Algorand. Oh, they're doing wonderful things. Very, very good things. So just knowing that, we have to take everything into account. So once we're taking everything into account, we're talking about trillions of dollars. You see that? And this is in assets, right? So there is so much money out there, quadrillions will flow. And I think that's modest. Who knows how long it's going to take? I don't know. I don't proclaim to know. I don't need to know. I know that I have patience. I have an iron will, and I'm very, very excited. And I do know that because of, but I believe that because of certain things happening in the world right now, there's a lot of instability that the world is going to need. Their governments are going to need a more stable system that's multifaceted, that if one part is not operating the way that they want, they can look at the other part and vice versa, and it can flow back and forth. That way, if they don't have this leg to stand on, they can stand and lean on that one. Of course, you would prefer both legs to function perfectly, but that doesn't always happen. So they're looking for something like that, okay? And also something that can help when you have a crisis on your hands, a certain economic crisis on your hands, something to negate the ill effects of that particular crisis. And I believe the new system is being set up to do that. There's been so many problems economically and financially in the world for a long time that now we should be able to remedy. This is where the ISO coins come in. This is where XLM, XRP, Algorand, Cello can come in. Of course, they have to still do their job. They have to still push this agenda. They must go out there and advertise. And although you don't want to be too aggressive, you definitely want to let the world know we are the best. We're the best. We flow one into to the other. And as I believe it was Denell Dixon said, that we're not in competition. Everyone's trying to work together. And I respect that, and I believe that that's the way forward. Everyone has to work together. There's enough money to go around. So, with all of that said, I just wanted to cover the numbers again because it was on my mind. I'm like, man, we should cover the commercial banks and take a look at that money. There's money on the table. Oh, I'd like to end with this, okay? And I appreciate you staying for this little piece because I think it's important. I believe that this early encroachment into the financial sectors with the central bank digital currencies, the national digital currencies, I think this first foray into this is it's just setting up the future to possibly take some of the market as far as domestic payments. So we don't need to just limit ourselves with cross-border remittances. We don't need to limit ourselves in that way. I believe looking at some of the negatives of certain quote unquote instant payment legacy systems that Stellar XLM XRP and Algorand could easily remedy the negatives of those particular systems and take a lot of that market from them, which would open up an entirely new volume of transactions. That is so important. Volume of transactions, as well as scoop up a lot more money that could possibly be on the table. All right. So here's a list of cons for a legacy instant payment system like Zelle. There are payment limits. I should be able to send as much money as I want, anytime I want, right? So I believe that with XLM, XRP, Algorand, we can remedy that. But I believe that this first encroachment is very light. I believe that the companies want to take a light hand entering this market so that they don't completely offend and upset the legacy system, which that would have very, very grave and negative ramifications. They could come against us much harder than they have been coming against us. But right now, they're being very light. They're pushing back, but not as much as they could push back. They have a lot of power. So I believe this first encroachment is very light. And as the companies pick up steam, Stellar Foundation, Ripple, Algorand Foundation, pick up steam, then little by little, we can take pieces of that market that will add up to a gargantuan amount of those markets. Because I believe that these payment rails are the future. We will see. Hopefully everything goes according to plan, because that would make you and I so much money. It would be ridiculous. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. And until next time, please subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you could, please click that like button. It helps more people to see this video and receive this information, which I hope was substantial to you. And until next time, let's get to the money.